cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
Do you ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome into the View from C-Deck, and it's been a little bit, but the guys are here to talk about the Buckeyes spring, the spring game, what we heard coming out of the spring, if we're going to see from this team as we try to defend our national championship. And the Haas here was up in Cleveland, so not at the game like I was, but we saw the quarterback battle perhaps come to fruition in front of our eyes as Julian Sayin finally looked the part that everybody had heard about in practice more last year than this year. Everybody was saying Holtz and him were neck and neck this year, though. It did not look like it Saturday. Holtz was out of sorts early in the game. Came back a little bit towards the end, but it was a lot of checkdowns and stuff. Julian leads 3 straight touchdown drives, though, and probably cemented himself as the leader in the clubhouse. And, I mean, everybody knows that if we're going to have a QB that can actually lead us to a championship this year, it'll probably have to be him. Although Tavian St. Clair, true freshman, made some very big true freshman mistakes, including a horrific interception. He had 2 picks in the game, but he does have the tools. You can see every physical tool that you would need to be an elite quarterback, something like Drew Aller. But Julian Sayin cements himself as the man. Is that what you were hoping to see and hoping to hear, Haas, coming into Saturday?
Yeah, I was, you hear anything about Lincoln Kienholz and you kind of hair stands on end if that's the leader in the clubhouse. And no, I think after watching some of the clips and stuff, Sayin's pretty comfortable in that spot, and I think Jake Butt, I think he was on the BTM podcast. I saw that he said, like, we have the chance to be a dynasty, but it all hinges on the quarterback. And I think that's kind of what everybody expects. I mean, not dynasty, I just to try to repeat or defend the championship is going to have to hinge on the quarterback. And, I think there's a lot of positives to take from that game, but the big thing is being that everybody came away healthy from that game. That's the big thing. And it's just good to get some competition and kind of see and get the rust off for some of them that haven't been doing a whole lot since the championship game. So, yeah, it opened up in a whole nother bag of worms with the defensive line, though. Like, now we know, okay, we're going to have some weaknesses that we're not used to. And the defensive line was the strongest point, arguably, last year. Now it's going to be, could be the weakest.
Yeah, last 2 years, really. Offensively, besides the quarterback, yeah, we look freaking stacked. We really do. Like, the tackles may not be worked quite out yet, but I think they'll figure it out. The interior line looked great, but it was against, mainly against the backups. The starting D-line didn't do that poorly. I think it got a little overblown. They weren't getting destroyed. It was the backup D-line was getting you and I could have ran for a few 10-yard runs in that game. Like, they were gapers going on out there. Guys weren't getting touched till they were 10 yards down the field, which could be good news for the O-line too. And I do think they're actually going to be good. I mean, they have a lot of experience from last year, the interior. A lot of guys, like 4 guys played.
Coming in, yep.
Yeah, we got the new tackles coming in, and the guy from Rice sounds like he's the real deal at left tackle. Sierveld it looks like they may just, they're going to usually what we do here is play the best 5, so we may end up having 4 guards basically playing. But Sierveld was an Iron Buckeye. Still got the start at right tackle in this game. I think we'll be fine at tackle, and we could be excellent inside. And the receivers, Mylan Graham looks like he'd be the best receiver in the Big Ten on any team besides Ohio State.
Yeah.
What do you think Penn State would offer him right now?
Jim Knowles might get on his knees personally to try to not regret his mistake of leaving, but whatever. I don't know. I think the running back's one of the most interesting positions too. I know we have had uncertainty with it in the past, like having guys come in and not know guys leave and having other guys replace them that we really haven't seen before. But it really has been a long time because we've had Henderson for the last 3 years. Last year we knew what we were getting. Like the Mayan Williams, Master Teague year, maybe we were what? But we kind of had seen them a decent amount before that. So I mean, you gotta I don't know. I can't really remember the last time. Like we had Dobbins there for a little bit. Like I can't remember the last time we had guys coming in that we really haven't seen before. And it's 3-4 guys that could really contribute this year.
Maybe I don't know. I guess Dobbins would be it. And I guess we'd seen Mayan a little bit, but the Travion, it was Travion and Mayan. Travion was a freshman. I would say that I think they're going to be awesome because the way they're talking up Peoples right now, and they only gave 2 carries in the game, so they treated him like he was an established star already. The same trying treatment that Downs and Smith were getting out there. So I think they really think he's going to be good. Donaldson looks like he could be the guy that we slam the ball into the line with. I mean, he looked good in the game, but again, he was huge holes when he was in the game. But both Sam Williams-Dixon, who's going to be a redshirt freshman, and then the true freshman Bo Jackson, they ran hard. Sam Williams-Dixon absolutely trucked Malik Hartford on a play. I mean, flat-backed him, which was maybe some bad news. Like we may look at a transfer portal safety. I'm not convinced we won't. After watching that game, McLean looked pretty good in coverage, but he's small. Hartford, I've never been impressed with him since he's been here. This is his 3rd year now, and I'm watching him get trucked by our third or fourth string running back. That's not good. We need somebody to go back there with Downs. So, but like all 4 backs, I think can be really good players, and we'll rotate them to keep them fresh, like we saw that last year. So it could be behind that O-line with those receivers that you have to. I mean, you have to double Jeremiah. Like you just have to. And then we haven't got to the tight ends, who also are super deep. And now we have an excellent receiver who had a long touchdown in Claire. Like the weapons are just all over the place. It's just going to be it's going to be Sayin. If Sayin can live up to the hype, can be the distributor, can get the ball down. I think the main thing is he'll have to get the ball downfield. But he was 4 for 4 in the intermediate throws, which I think is the bread and butter of Day's offense. And what makes Day's offense is they can attack the intermediate throws as good as any team in the country. And he was great in those regards. I do think it's interesting, both he and Keinholz, almost all of their success came throwing to the right, which they're both right-handed quarterbacks. It makes sense. But, all of their success came that way. So, you can't just look right every time. So that's something that's going to have to be expanded.
Did he look like he had good game control? Like, did they run many 2-minute situations?
They didn't. Well, Sayin scored his first 3 drives, and then they kind of took him out, and then they put him back in the second half. But they ran St. Clair and Keinholz after those 3 drives, so he didn't get put in that situation really. St. Clair had a couple 2-minute drives actually at the end, and he threw a touchdown at the end of the game. It was third and fourth stringers in, but still something nice to see from a true freshman. But he looked like he had command of the offense, and he just looked more comfortable out there than Keinholz. Keinholz, especially his first possession, his feet were way ahead of his arm. Like he was not. It looked like somebody spazzing out kind of a little bit when they see the open man. Like he had a 3rd and 7, should have been easy completion on a hitch to Jeremiah or curl, ran like a 10-yard curl, and he skied it. And I mean Jeremiah probably should have caught it, but it was a curl on 3rd down should be down at your knees or your gut. And it was up over his head, and he missed it because it just came out way too hot. Like it was just his footwork just totally sped up too fast, and it just came out hot. So it's kind of the same thing you saw in the Cotton Bowl 3 years ago. It just didn't look like he looked wide-eyed out there, which is the spring game. Shouldn't be happening. Defensively, like you said, though, D-line depth could be bad because everything else besides maybe safety depth too looked great though. I thought the corners. Aaron Scott had a little rough day with Mylan Graham. But he also had a really nice pass break up in the end zone on what was a good fade actually to Graham from Sayin. But the linebackers, especially Peyton Pierce, all the hype. He on the second string defense, it was him and Logan George were the only ones that really stood out. Jamali McLean a little bit too to me, but I think we're 3 deep at linebacker, like 3 all conference level maybe guys. If Arvell Reese could also take the step up. Sonny looked really good in his limited action. He made 2 good plays in the backfield.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean and we've also had some big recruiting wins lately in the last couple of weeks too. So I don't know. The last couple of years I felt like we've kind of harped on the recruiting, but it's also when we've had on the defense 4-year starters like that, it's hard to see how good you have recruited because you're seeing the same guys year after year. So this is kind of a breath of fresh air to kind of see some of these guys that have been in the shadows and to see if they're actually, ready for the moment. So I mean, spring game, tough to tell, but I think they should be going pretty hard on them. I mean, we open up the gate right away. I mean, with Texas, so. I mean, I know we can probably afford to lose. You can probably afford to lose 2, maybe 3 games. So, but I think you do need to kind of get on them rather quickly because if you get out of the gates really slow there, it could catch up to you real quick with this inexperienced team of sorts.
And with the D tackles being the problem, the only team that really there's 2 teams that should worry you with that. It's Penn State because they're going to run the ball for sure, and Scum at the end of the year because they're going to run the ball for sure too. Even that may be not as dynamic as Penn State's offense, but we're going to have to be able to stop the run this year against the Big Ten. Like our schedule definitely necessitates good defensive tackle play, and we can't go in there just too deep because it really looked like the only 2 guys ready to play at all were Houston and McDonald. So I expect a lot of transfer portal action there, but overall, and Jaden Fielding, who I guess played with an injury, he revealed almost the entire season. After week 3, he had
nice.
So he's a kicker.
Real surprising though.
Yes, but could explain his struggles against Scum, with it being cold and his hip acting up. But he looked really good. He looked really good actually in the spring game. Interestingly enough.
Another one of those. What is he hurt or is this? The whole. Do we really know who's hurt? The whole Travion thing a couple years ago.
We'll never actually know. You cannot trust anything about injuries from us.
No.
So one thing I do. So speaking of transfer portals, one thing I want to hit on here. Actually, quick before we do that, as I asked in all of our podcasts, did the whole spring as a whole make you feel better about next year's chances to repeat as national champions, or are you feeling like it's maybe we're just not quite there this year with what we have? I feel better about it after seeing Sayan on Saturday. Until then, I was not. The way they were describing the practices, I was starting to get a little worried about the quarterback situation, but I feel a little bit better now.
No, I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of the game other than some highlights and stuff. Overall, just the attitude and everything that I'm getting from people who watched it and just from the media and stuff, you have to feel better, I think, for me personally. And looking at the talent that's on the roster, and you kind of do realize that there are some key contributors that are superstars. I mean, Sonny Styles, Downs, and Jeremiah, and how Carnell Tate. I think there's enough still there. Not even there's a lot still there, and so. And I think our schedule's relatively easy. I'm not a believer in Penn State this year. So it really comes down to Texas and the Scum game for us being the 2 bugaboos. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better, especially the offense. Okay, now speaking of the transfer portal, we have to talk about Nico. I am a leaving, as he and Tennessee have a freaking messy breakup. I mean, messy breakup.
I love it.
I do. I mean, I love it because I hate Tennessee, and I hate him too. So it's a double-edged yay. Good job on Tennessee though by saying, you know what, you're not worth this. We've already paid you. What are we doing here? We're not. Yes. You got to sit on the bench 2 years ago and get paid $2 million, and now you want more now after having about as mediocre of a season as you could have. Yeah, they won games. It's funny. Tennessee had the opposite of Scum's schedule. Scum went 7-5, but they played 7 of their 9 games in the Big Ten against teams that finished in the top half of the Big Ten. And Tennessee was the opposite. They played 7 of their 9 SEC games against the bottom half of the SEC. So they stacked their wins against really nobody, but they got in the win over Bama. Mediocre stats against mediocre schedule, and he had super mediocre stats against Bama, Ohio State, and Georgia, his 3 biggest games of the year. And he's asking to be paid the top transfer portal QBs when he's not even, I think, was he 9th or 10th best quarterback in the SEC? and it was already like had the biggest deal in the history of kids coming out of high school when he came out. Like, but they begs the question here: is this what we're going to start seeing more of? Guys trying to renegotiate, like trying to use some leverage in the spring ball and bend their teams over.
We're already seeing the first guy was what the UNLV quarterback.
Cheer. Well, he said they didn't pay him is what his issue was. I don't believe him. I don't believe him.
I don't think he went. Like, I don't know where he went. I didn't really follow up with his side, but UNLV still had a pretty good year after he left. Like, why would you cater? I've never been a believer of, like, you know me. I hate the fucking quarterbacks, especially in the NFL level, getting all the money. So when it's a quarterback like that, and the guy if that was Jeremiah Smith, for God's sakes, I get it. I get it. If he was like, give me more money, and the school didn't pay him, then I'd side with Jeremiah. Like, dude, he's balled out. He's worth every penny, and I'd say just sit down and go to the NFL. With him, it's like, dude, like, you weren't that good. So it's just, I'm totally happy that Tennessee did that, and shows the team that, hey, nobody's above it, just like they said, and I'm all for it. So I want players to be paid and stuff, but I do think that there is like checks and balances that need to be had here in this system, and this was a really good step towards the right direction of schools kind of saying, okay, you know, we also have power in this too.
I mean, I love the players getting paid, but I'd love it more if it was structured some way that there are actual commitments. Because now there's free agency basically twice a year.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, I think
the playoffs.
Yeah. Prior to the playoffs, there are. I mean, but there's two different transfer portal windows. If your coach leaves, there's a third one. So you have three basically opportunities to be a free agent every single year. And that's just obscene. And it's just,
and you throw in like the schools having the signing period, like, and you throw in the schools having to, I know, like, personally that's three, but yeah, then you also have in the signing periods so the schools are all like, just, it's like a carousel.
Coaches are earning their money now, for sure. They are earning their money because this
the GM thing is, you're seeing every school basically is now having to have a GM. Like that's why, like, a GM for collegiate sports seemed kind of wild, but now it's like that kind of makes sense, especially for football and like the big roster sports. Like, I think you need to have that guy that can kind of facilitate the money and facilitate kind of like, who can we get, who can we afford, what are our holes and stuff. And the coach, I think, still needs to be the guy making the decisions. Whereas anyways, yeah, it's kind of the Wild West still, and I don't know why these guys aren't. Why the NCAA is not stepping in yet. It feels like they're dragging this thing out. The longer and longer it's dragging out, it feels like the messier and messier it's going to get.
Oh, because they need Congress to step in is what that's what they're just begging for, because they lose every court battle, so they basically can't put any reins on this. It's all very complicated because we've talked about this before, but you know, with different states having different laws about unionization at public universities, or public unions in general, but within universities, like, they're going to have to get an antitrust, I think, exemption, and then get a collective bargaining agreement. But it's different than the NFL, because the NFL, you got guys that are in the league for 10, 15 years. These guys are maximum 5 years there. So you're going to have new voters every 5 years. You have so many voter turnover within there. Like, I don't know how you can vote for, like, you know, we've seen in this country, people are going to vote in their own interest and not for the greater good and not for the future. So I don't know how that, I mean, all in all, it just seems like a model that almost can't be sustained. I don't know a good answer to it. It's going to take a lot of pain, I think, to iron out something that makes it so that basically, I mean, once the free agency happens in this way, and college basketball is the worst now, because you basically have whole rosters that are overturned every single year. Then what are you rooting for in the end? A piece of cloth. You know, that doesn't mean everything to everybody. And maybe if you went there, but eventually, I mean, this is what happens. I used to be a UC basketball fan, hardcore. Bob Huggins was there. And once he got fired, and they brought in Andy Kennedy for a year before he also got fired, for both of them just being raging alcoholics, basically. But then all the players left too after those two left. You know, just like happens nowadays. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what am I rooting for right now? I don't know who any of these guys are. I don't know who the coaches are. And then I was going to Ohio State at that point. I'm like, I'm just going to root for Ohio State, which helped that Odin and Conley were coming in like the next year. But but it's just that's like what happened. Like fan engagement will go down if they don't know who anybody is on the team anymore. It will.
Yeah. I mean, you've lost me on Ohio State basketball. I mean, Diebler is a whole nother story, but it's the effing roster. Like, we just got in some recruit. Like Bradshaw was here for a year now. He's like, I mean, I know we weren't really very talented to begin with, but it's hard. Like they feel like we're a school that should be having 3 or 4 year players. We're not really a one and done type of blue collar school or blue chip school. So we're just not that. We're like it's hard to follow the program when you don't know who the hell's there, and the guys that are here really aren't that good. So yeah, college basketball, you've kind of lost me, and you're losing a lot of people too, especially if it's. I know it doesn't happen very often, but yeah, with there being 4 1 seeds, if we keep seeing that, you're going to really see a decline in a lot of the college basketball stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't hit football yet. Especially the Blue Bloods will keep most of their players. Like we'll keep most of our guys that matter, and we'll let guys walk. And I think for the big boys like us, it won't be as big a roster turnover that you don't know who guys are. But for the smaller schools, it's already starting to happen. And then you lose engagement at the smaller schools. They probably don't just pick a team that's like one of the Blue Bloods or one of the SEC or Big Ten teams, I guess, that eventually we're going to move to. But I don't know. All I know is it makes you feel icky and doesn't feel like what college football is supposed to be about. Like I said, I'm all for the players getting paid lots of money, like way more than they're getting paid now even. But there needs to be some structure to that payment. And kids just jumping around, and like if I'm an NFL GM, that kid's off my board now. I already know he doesn't care about the team. He doesn't care about he's looking out for number one at all times. And that's not what you need. Like you need people who are going to buy in to your program all the way, and he's just not going to. If that's the way he is way he was in high school, way he is in college, it's going to be the way he is in the pros. Like it's not going to change. And he's just not talented enough to think. If he was super talented, like if he was looking like Vince Young or Cam Newton or something like that, some of these uber dual threat quarterbacks that are huge, then maybe just like, okay, I'll deal with it. But he's not that good. He's not worth this kind of headache.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode, though. And, after the spring, things feel better for the Buckeyes. So good news for us. And here at the View from C-Deck, we're going to do a lot of NBA talk. We're going to do an NFL draft preview, probably as maybe an AFC North thing. I don't know. What do you think? AFC North lens or Buckeye lens, or just as a whole at some point?
I like the Buckeye lens. AFC North is kind of, God. Because it's like, I don't know. It's tough to predict what these dumbass teams are going to do, primarily the Browns. But yeah, I like the Buckeye thing, kind of projecting good fits for them.
Yeah. You guys are taking Travis Hunter in the first round. Sounds like about lock. But then we'll see after that. Maybe you trade up and get Shadur. Or maybe you don't have to. He may slide out of the first round the way they're talking.
I think trading Watson and the 3rd round pick for the number 1 overall pick, and then we could have the 1st and 2nd pick.
Now that's Browns fan talk right there.
I don't know, man. I've seen some of these people already buying homes in Westlake, so you can kind of push the button.
Where the new stadium? Is that where the new stadium is going to be?
No, it's always a rumor. It's always a fan joke. Like whenever trade deadline, this guy just bought a home in Westlake. We think we're going to trade for him. It never happens.
Yeah, because people just want to move there for the beachfront property. All right, but for the Haas, I'm just Matt. This is the View from C-Deck. Like, subscribe, comment. We'll have lots of stuff coming for you. And we will see you guys next time.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.